All right, today we're going to explore what might just be Scotland's most spectacular castle. I mean, look at this place. Perched right on the edge of the world, Dunnottar is a fortress of impossible beauty and absolutely staggering history. So let's dive right in.
I mean, in a country that is literally full of incredible castles, that is some seriously high praise. And this quote, it just perfectly captures that feeling of seeing Dunnottar for the very first time. It's not just a building, it's this geographical marvel that almost doesn't seem real. You can't help but stand there and think, how on earth did they even build this?
And that's your first clue. 160 feet. That's the height of the sheer cliffs the castle is sitting on, plunging straight down into the cold, churning North Sea. It's this incredibly dramatic, almost unbelievable setting that made Dunnottar one of the most defensible strongholds in the entire kingdom.
And the rock itself? It's ancient. We're not just talking about any old cliff here. This is a 440-million-year-old geological formation, a massive headland that's connected to the mainland by just a tiny, narrow strip of land. You can see how this geography meant that a really small group of defenders could hold off a massive army. So to build here wasn't just ambitious, it was a total statement of power.
You see, Dunnottar is so much more than just a beautiful ruin. Its story is completely woven into the story of Scotland itself. For centuries, this very site was a place of immense strategic importance, kind of an anvil where the nation's fate was hammered out. So let's take a look at how this one spot has been a center of power through the ages.
I absolutely love this analogy because it explains so perfectly why this site is so important. The buildings you see today, well, they're largely from the 15th and 16th centuries, but people were fortifying this exact rock for millennia. It started as a Pictish fort, and just like that grandfather's axe, even as the handle and the blade were replaced over time, its purpose, its soul, as a stronghold remained exactly the same.
And wow, what a history it is. This timeline just shows you centuries of brutal conflict. Around 700 AD, it's a Pictish fort. By 900, Vikings invade and kill a Scottish king right on this spot. Then you fast forward to 1297, and yep, William Wallace, storms the castle, traps the entire English garrison in the chapel, and burns it to the ground. From its earliest days, this was a place of high drama and unbelievable violence.
So after Wallace, the site eventually came into the hands of the very powerful Keith family in 1392. Now, as the Earls Marshall, they were basically one of the most powerful families in Scotland, and they were charged with protecting the king and, crucially, the honors of Scotland, the crown jewels. This huge responsibility made Dunnicaer a de facto center of royal power, and it was the Keiths who really transformed the site into the magnificent castle complex whose ruins we get to see today.
And this brings us to the castle's most famous and, honestly, its most dramatic period. Dunnottar is about to become the stage for a desperate act of national preservation, and later, a scene of just unimaginable suffering. Okay, so picture this. It's the mid-17th century, and Scotland is in absolute turmoil. Oliver Cromwell's army is sweeping through the country, and the very symbols of the nation itself, the Scottish crown jewels, are at risk of being captured and destroyed. So they were sent to Dunnottar for safekeeping. I mean, what place could possibly be safer? It was a fortress on a cliff, seemingly impenetrable.
But Cromwell's army was relentless. They laid siege to the castle for 8 long months. As supplies started to run out, a desperate plan was hatched by a very unlikely hero, a minister's wife named Christian Granger. She walked into the besieged castle, and then she walked out, smuggling the priceless honors of Scotland right under the noses of the entire English army. The crown was hidden in her clothes to make her look pregnant, while the sword and scepter were disguised in bundles of flax. It's just incredible. And this is my favorite part of the story. The English general, completely fooled by the whole act, actually helped this woman, who was carrying the very treasure he was there to seize, up onto her horse. You just can't make this stuff up. It is an act of incredible audacity and nerve. And thanks to her, the honors were saved, buried safely under the floorboards of a nearby church until the monarchy was restored.
But you know, heroism isn't the only story that these walls tell. After the grand drama of the crown jewels, Dunnottar's next chapter becomes much, much darker, as its formidable walls were used not to protect treasure, but to inflict misery during a period of intense religious conflict.
So, in 1685, a group of Covenanters, these were Presbyterians who refused to accept the king as the head of the church, were rounded up.
167 men and women were marched to Dunnottar and forced into this small cellar, now known as the Whig's Vault. This was a space that was barely large enough for a fraction of that number.
The conditions inside were just horrific. They were held for weeks in ankle-deep filth with absolutely no sanitation. Food and water were withheld, only to be sold at outrageous prices by the guards. Some of them attempted a desperate escape by climbing the cliffs, but many fell to their deaths. The survivors faced a fate that was almost as grim, being sold into slavery in the American colonies. It's a truly, truly dark chapter in the castle's history.
So after these really intense periods of sieges and imprisonment, the castle's time as a major stronghold was pretty much coming to an end. Its next chapter would see it fall into ruin before being reborn as the icon that we know and love today.
The castle's fate was ultimately sealed by politics. The 10th Earl Marshal, a Keith, made the mistake of backing the losing side in the Jacobite Rising of 1715. As a result, his titles and all of his lands, including the mighty Dunnottar, were seized by the crown. And just like that, the nearly 400-year reign of the Keiths was over.
So what happened next? Well, the castle was sold off and basically stripped for parts. Anything valuable was taken, lead from the roofs, furniture, you name it, and the grand fortress was just abandoned to the harsh coastal weather. For almost 200 years, it stood as this magnificent, romantic ruin, inspiring artists and poets.
But just when it seemed like the castle might actually just crumble into the sea, it was saved. In 1919, the Pearson family bought the site and began the incredibly painstaking work of conservation. They strengthened the ancient walls and made the ruins safe, ensuring that this historic landmark would survive for future generations to see.
In its new life, Dunnottar has become a bit of a Hollywood star. Its dramatic appearance makes it the perfect filming location. It's been in movies like the 1990 Hamlet with Mel Gibson and 2015's Victor Frankenstein. And, maybe most famously, it was a major inspiration for the breathtaking family castle in the Disney/Pixar movie Brave. And when you see it in person, it's easy to see why.
So, what is it like to actually visit this incredible place today? Well, if you're planning a trip to Scotland, this is one spot you absolutely cannot miss. Let's walk through the practicalities and the highlights of what you'll get to experience.
So getting there is an adventure in itself. You can drive and park nearby, but just be prepared for a very steep walk down and then back up a long flight of stairs. For the best experience, honestly, I'd recommend taking the train to the nearby town of Stonehaven and walking the stunning 2-mile coastal path. The views of the castle as you get closer are just unforgettable.
Once you're inside, the site is massive, with ruins spread out over 3.5 acres. You can explore everything from the 14th century keep to the grand 16th century palace. You can stand in the chapel where Wallace's infamous fire happened, and you can even find the lion's den. Yep, where one of the earls allegedly kept a pet lion.
And here's a final little tip. If you happen to be in the area for New Year's Eve, which they call Hogmanay, the town of Stonehaven hosts an absolutely wild fireballs ceremony. We're talking dozens of people swinging giant flaming fireballs around their heads and parading through the streets. It's one of the most spectacular ways to ring in the new year anywhere in the world.
So, from Pictish warriors to William Wallace, from smuggled crown jewels to a pet lion, Dunnottar Castle is a place that is just saturated with history. It leaves you wondering, if these ancient stones, which have witnessed so much bloodshed, so much bravery, and so much betrayal, could actually speak, what other incredible secrets would they share with us?